Quincy Wilson is an Olympic medalist, and he's also a high school track athlete. And considering that historically, those two things have never been true at the exact same time for any high school boy, Quincy Wilson is different. I pay attention to high school track and field a whole lot. It's how I rank the athletes to begin with. And I dare anybody to challenge me when I say that Quincy Wilson is a 99 overall rating for the class of 2026. As far as I'm concerned, it just kind of makes sense. If you can go over to the games and come back and run at the high school level, then yes, that is who you are. So I am not surprised that recently he ran at what appears to be an independent school league championship in the Maryland area. And when he did it, he dominated. He ran the 400, and of course he won that event because that's his main event. But he also ran the 200 and swept like prelims to the finals, ran away from everybody when he was competing in the 200 as well. That is not exactly why Quincy Wilson is a 99. It's a whole lot more than that, because he goes faster than anybody else can go and continues to show up to do it. It doesn't mean that he's perfect though, and that's really where the conversation has to go, because Quincy Wilson has been running on the high school circuit throughout this entire year, both indoors and outdoors. And he's also dipped his toes into the professional ranks. I mean, as much as you can without technically being a professional. He went to the USA Indoor Meet. He even ran at Melrose. He even ran at the New Balance Indoor Grand Prix. Like, all of those actually happened. And he was running against professional athletes, fundamentally. He's a high school kid who's way more than that. And the fact that Quincy Wilson has been losing has caused a whole lot of chatter, and I figured that I might as well be very clear about what I'm seeing when we look at Quincy Wilson in the class of 2026, because as far as I know, he hasn't reclassified yet, and he hasn't officially turned pro either. Quincy Wilson. Remember when I said he's different? Well, the thing about when you're an athlete like him, and you choose to come back to high school, which I commend him for, everywhere you go on the track, you now have a target on your back. But the thing is, people can't hit that target if they can't catch up to you first, which is the real conversation. There are a few athletes at the high school level who technically can run with Quincy Wilson. The issue isn't whether they can run with him in one race, but can they continue to run with him over and over and over again? Allow me to explain. Let's just look at his actual report this year. He opened up his season at the Virginia Showcase, where he ran an indoor 500. He's really a 400 runner, so it's a slightly longer race, and Quincy Wilson likely would have won that event if Andrew Salvadon did not decide that he was going to break a high school national record indoors in that race. But he did, and Andrew Salvadon is in the class of 2025. So let's just get that out of the way. If you want to beat Quincy, you better have record-setting speed. For the most part. After that, I remember seeing Quincy run at the New Balance Indoor Grand Prix, where he got the victory, and that was not supposed to happen. Skipping over the entire field, all you have to know is that a former world indoor champion in the 400 meter dash was competing in that race. The same man who just won the long sprints at Grand Slam Track in Miami, Jareem Richards of Trinidad. Again, Quincy Wilson isn't just mixing it up with somebody like that. He was able to get to the line. I mean, we could talk about training cycles and all of that, but you gotta just give the kid his flowers because, hey, high school boys ain't supposed to do that. But Quincy Wilson kept on running, and he ran Melrose with the pros. Again, he was running a longer event. He ended up going to the New Balance Indoor Championship for the high school kids, and of course, yeah, he does his thing. He dominates when he goes up there. Andrew Salvadon was on the track. He was just behind now because Quincy Wilson wasn't playing games. Remember, I'm just rattling this all off head. Like, I'm not really looking everything up at the moment. But if you skip past the indoor season, he goes outdoors. And Quincy Wilson is running relays and he's running open events. I mean, take your pick. Because when Bullets runs relays, they don't just run them. They run after national records. And for the most part, they threaten them whenever they go out there. Most people saw Quincy Wilson at Penn Relays, where they broke the high school national record in the 4x4. I mean, although they broke that record, they didn't actually win the event, but historically, Jamaica runs faster times with the athletes they put on the track for their high school, like high school sections. So it is what it is. I mean, there was a lot of chatter, and I'm gonna off-road here because Quincy Wilson is helping us understand what's really going on with recruiting. So let's go there. But if you're new here, I want to say thank you for even making it this far into the video. And I'm Coach Rob, the founder of SCArecruiting.com, where I rank the best track and field recruits across the entire nation. And if anything that I say actually connects with you, it is always greatly appreciated if you would please like and subscribe. But if I don't, just let me know in the comment section because I try to read them all. I've seen in the comment section of some of these videos that Penn relays and these high school national records aren't a great reflection because states like Texas or California or whoever don't participate at the Penn relays. That might be true, that other states have their own calendars about when they do their championships. It's why I have to do the national recruit rankings after June is over. Like after New Balance Nationals, Nike Outdoor Nationals, after Brooks PR. All of those things have to end before we can really rank the kids because everybody has to have their entire outdoor season come to a conclusion before we can try to give a fair ranking, like throwing everybody on the board. Just saying, that's when the re-rank is coming. It's coming after the month of June into July. That's when they're all gonna roll out. But still, if you break a high school national record, it don't matter what state you're in. All them kids in Texas, like all those high school teams, they had a chance to run faster 4x4s if they wanted to. They just didn't do it. The same thing like California, Florida, or anywhere else. So you got to give it to Bullis and what Quincy Wilson did, the crazy split that he put down. But he also ran open races, and I'm going to go there. At Florida Relays, Quincy Wilson won the Open 400. The young man who was behind him was Tywan Cox. Tywan Cox has been reported as a football player, and he is committed to play football at Illinois next year. But he is not just a football player. He's in the class of 2025. And beyond that, there is a reason why he is a 5-star recruit in the class of 2025. He had a 5-star ranking heading into this year. Remember, I've got less than 45 stars across all the events who are on that list. And he was one of them. So you can say Quincy Wilson lost to a football player if you want to. Not in the Open, but in the 4x4 where Tywan Cox put on a show. And yeah, he took Quincy Wilson out. Let's be real. But he's still a 5-star kid. That is the type of talent you need to have. Because 5 stars are incredibly hard to come by. Everybody thinks they're a 5-star if they're fast for the most part. And I get it. Because we have all these AAU and USATF, and especially at the lower level. But again, a 5-star on my recruiting list, we're trying to, this list is not dictating reality. The goal is to reflect reality. How do elite college coaches actually see you? They don't just want to see you run fast once. They want to see you do it over and over and over again. Which brings us back to Quincy Wilson. Because even though he may have had a disappointing showing in that Florida Relays 4x4, I mean, that's one race. I believe Penn Relays was after that on the calendar. Somebody could fact check me in the comments. And then what I also saw is what I believe was the East Coast International Showcase. Quincy Wilson goes out there again, and he runs an Open 400, where Andrew Salvadon is there. But Jayden Horton-Mims, who is also another 5-star recruit. So now we've got 2 5-stars in the race in an Open 400 with Quincy. And those 5 stars are class of 2025. Jayden Horton-Mims was able to get to the home straight with him and hold him off. He technically gets the victory. I mean, okay, fine then. Yes, Quincy Wilson is not bulletproof, but there's a reason why Jayden Horton-Mims is one of the most highly sought after recruits in the entire class of 2025. Just like Tywan Cox, and we don't even know if we're going to see him on the track in college because he's playing football. That's not Jayden Horton-Mims' situation. He's going to be running track in college. That's why he's committed to the Florida Gators, which is one of the programs that Quincy has visited, or at least had some form of an unofficial and official visit, throughout his recruiting campaign. I mean, all the top programs with the biggest budgets, they're going to take a swing at Quincy. For as long as he wants to run in college, they're going to want him in their uniform. You don't have to debate anymore when you're recruiting an athlete like him. Because, again, the only time Quincy Wilson is losing, the only time, since people want to talk about it, is when he's running against a 5-star recruit. In Andrew Salvador's case, like in his situation, he wasn't technically a 5-star yet, but he was pretty close to it. And then he broke a high school national record, so it is what it is. I track the SEC conference pretty specifically, because as far as I'm concerned, it's basically professional track and field over there, just disguised as college athletics. That's all it is. So when you go to the SEC, there's a whole bunch of kids who are 4-star level, like mid to high 4-star level, even 5 stars, who don't do anything when they get to the SEC. Certainly not when they're a freshman. This year indoors, just gonna float this out there, the 3 best hurdlers in the entire class of 2024 all showed up to the SEC. And when they went into the 60-meter hurdles indoors at the SEC conference meet, they all finished in dead last, like the bottom 3 names in the entire leaderboard. That's how competitive that conference is. Which brings me now to a whole new phase of the conversation. Because remember Tywan Cox, the young man who ran neck and neck with Quincy? Like, yes, he lost to him individually, but then put on a great showing in a 4x4. I told you he was a 5-star, right? I snuck into the Florida High School State meet and watched the 3A. I came down to watch the 3A meet. It actually got rained out, but I was paying attention. And here's what happened. Tywan Cox did what I thought he would. He won the 400. In a race that was never really that close. He was a second faster than anybody else in the field. And this is in Florida. So at the 3A meet, he dominates. Check the leaderboards for everybody in Florida. He's the fastest 400 runner in the entire state. That's a state where it actually means something. Like Texas or California. Like, you number 1 there, you're probably going to be one of the best anywhere. It just is what it is. In the 200, the young man, he didn't win the 200 at 3A, but he was second. Still, incredibly fast. Bring that back to Quincy. Yes, Quincy's not in that class. He's in the class of 2026. But it keeps on giving us a barometer. And I'm going to off-road here and really try to bring this all home. For all the high school kids out there who really want to get recruited, the way the NCAA is going, like with the new roster caps and the way that programs have to restructure, the only way I can really explain the way the whole scholarship game is going to go from here on out is as follows. There's only 2 types of kids anymore who make it to D1. Either you're a game breaker or you're not. I mean, you can call them a game changer, whatever term makes you feel better. And if that's what you are, like if you want a full ride scholarship for track and field, let's just forget about NIL for a moment. I mean, that's not really that relevant. Yes, there's NIL money out there for track, but it's minor. And I've already shared my thoughts on that. There's no reason to go back on it now. That said, scholarship money is really only going to the kids who coaches think are game changers, game breakers. That's what they are. The type of athletes who, at the very least, should be at the NCAA East or West regional meets, like out the gate. Like a 100-meter runner who can break 10.4. That's the type of kid who might get a full ride scholarship offered to them. Not everywhere, but somewhere in D1. When it comes to the highest level, going back to the SEC, they don't even want to just see you go fast anymore. They want to know the context. That's why Quincy Wilson is a 99 overall rating. Because everybody is aware of the context. I'm going to tell you his context. Olympic trials, that's his context. Florida relays, that's the context. New Balance Indoor Nationals, that is the context. USA Indoor Championships, that is the context. Every time Quincy runs, it's basically a big race. The smallest race that I think he ever ran this year that I was checking for, like the one that I noticed, was probably that independent school league championship that just happened. That's about it. Everything else was a big race with other big-time athletes. Quincy Wilson either wins or is right there. Again, if you are not one of the best of the best, you ain't gonna beat him. You're not even gonna be close. So with all that being said, yes, Quincy Wilson is human. He is still a teenager. I grade him very differently now because once you go out there running with the pros, we do have to acknowledge that you are in a different situation. But Quincy Wilson is still as good as it's going to get at the high school level. Him losing a race here and there to other athletes who are about as good as you're ever going to see at the high school level does not change that. It just puts it into context that if you can run with him, you just might be what the big time coaches in D1 are actually looking for. Not just the athletes who they might accept if they have absolutely no other choice. The ones they're actually looking for. Because what they really want is Quincy Wilson. And the only problem is, there's only one of him. You actually made it all the way to the end of this video. I do have to admit that thank you doesn't do it justice anymore, because you are a real one. And if you want more from me beyond this video, on SCArecruiting.com, you can get a ton of resources, like my free recruiting guide, online courses, and much more, including the option to meet with me one-on-one, where my specialty is helping you figure out which schools might actually be the best fit for you. And if nothing else, and you really just want to see more content like this, it is always greatly appreciated if you would please like and subscribe.